So my name's Dusty McWilliams. Work for Hosta Farms. Been there 8 years. The farm is a 6,000 acre irrigated. This year, I just checked a while ago, and we're about 25% sorghum silage and 75% corn. So we will do some corn silage and some corn grain this year. But I work for Harold Grawls, my stepdad, and my mom is Stacy. That Hosta is their partnership, and yeah, happy to be here.
You're also taking over leasing the water center.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. So Stan Spain has been farming these fields here for the past 10 years, I think. Has it been 10 years?
10 years.
Yeah. And so this next year, I'll be taking it over first year, and we'll be working along with David and implementing whatever demonstrations he wants to do here. So, but just a couple things I was gonna mention. Bailey wanted me to jump on the week 1 panel, and I flipped through y'all's itinerary and it said soil health and agronomy, and I thought that's not going to be a good one for me. So I punted on that one and said, looked through the itinerary and saw special systems and thought, if it's technology, I'm all over it. So we do a lot of fun stuff on our farm. We're always trying to see what's out there and take hold of it and see if it's going to work or not. You know, whenever I've only been there 8 years, so my background is actually IT management, server administration. I did that for almost 20 years before coming back to the farm. So I didn't get those full years of farm life, Danny, but I got lots of guys around me that are pretty expert and know what's going on. But yeah, as far as on technologies that we do, recently we just changed our planter equipment, but for the longest time we had precision planting technology, kind of row by row seed rate, row by row liquid fertilizer rate, which allowed us to do a lot of cool things. I think we did prescription farming. Have any of you guys dabbled with prescriptions, seed rates, or fertility? Do y'all know what that is?
Better tell us.
Yeah. Let me show a picture.
Better tell me.
So whenever your planter can control each row, and you can set the seed rate or the fertility rate, you can decide, if parts of your field are better or worse than the other. Maybe you want to push a little bit more fertility in that area, or maybe you want to drop it back. Or same thing with seed rate. If you want to ramp it up or pull it down, you can do that. So right when I came on the farm 8 years ago, we were working with a company called Growers that really to get these zones, you got to scan your field and figure out what parts of your field are different than the other. So really what you're looking for is difference of soil type, looking for water holding capacity, just where is my soil different that I want to try some different things on that particular field. So Harold really committed to prescription farming, I'd say. Really kind of gave it a good try for over 5 years. And there's a lot of legwork in it. You're sitting down coming up with how much are we willing to push a seed population this way or that way? How much are we willing to change our fertility to see if we can maximize getting the best yield, or maybe just spending the less money for that yield. Maybe we want to pull back our fertilizer because we got soil that's just not as good on this end of the field as it is on the other. So we want to be more efficient with our money. But yeah, so over time, you get to change up your seed rates, change up your fertilizer, and we saw efficiencies in the end. I'd say every year we saw some fields that would do better, some would do worse. Some we couldn't explain it away and say it was definitely the prescription that made the difference. So in the end, you just kind of have to look at the amount of time you're putting into it. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of trying to get these are files that you basically load into your tractor. So you put them in the planter. And we just, after 5 years, yes, there was some efficiencies, but not enough to justify all the extra work that we were doing. couple more little pictures I want to show y'all. Stan last year is planted these fields here at the demonstration farm, and did a great job because when it came time to harvest, we ran our combine across these fields to look at David's demonstration on hybrids. And David wanted to kind of see if on the drip fields, if we put more water in this section or less water in this section, how do the hybrids react to that? Which ones perform better in the lower water, mid water, or high water? And David kind of laid that out. But one of the technologies we really kind of live and die by is the yield map. So we try our best to make sure that whenever the combine's out there and he's running down the field, is the yield map going to collect? Because we want to know if there was a problem in the field, we want to know why. We want to go back and look at that. But for these fields here, called up Stan, said, Stan, did you happen to at the end of each pass, whenever you were changing your hybrids over, did you mark them? Yeah, he marked them, every single one of them. And at the end of each pass, you got a field looking like that. Pretty wild.
It was a good thing that it worked, because that was the only yield we took.
That's the only yield we took. So it's a little before my time, but I know Danny, when it comes to doing a field test, weigh wagons and stopping what you're doing and making sure everything's just right is important if you're going to do a field test. And so what we decided to do this year, I knew that Stan had great planting maps. He marked each hybrid. We knew where it was in the field. It was 12 rows. Our combine was 12 rows. So whenever we went across it, we pulled our combine. Of course, a couple little file adjustments you got to make in the cab. It's not completely automatic, but just a few little boxes you got to check. You pull up in the combine, run across it, and the combine actually knew exactly what hybrid it was on top of each pass. And it recorded that, gave us a score, and we sent that over to David, and David kind of picked it apart and figured out what he wanted to know.
And the first 6 runs on the left were full water, and the next 6 runs, that really red bit, that was half the amount of water. And so, yeah, you can see it stand out there on the yield map. The one on the far right was like a 3/4.
Y'all see that big grain in the far right? That strip way over there? That hybrid, if you sit down and stare at this, that hybrid in every single zone, did it win them all?
Yeah.
David? Yeah, it won them all. So low water, medium water, or great water. It did a great job. But from a technology standpoint, if you got good maps, good seed maps, you did a good job of making sure your hybrids are marked, sometimes you can pull up there in the combine and just go across it.
So what was the hybrid?
Pioneer 13364.
It was
14 364 PCUE.
14364 PCUE.
So that was kind of
I guess what you're
surprise.
saying though, whether they're digital or otherwise, records matter. Because
Yeah.
if you don't know what you've done, you don't know how you got to what you've done. And so it's like with soil moisture probes. I'll sit there and look at each layer by each day, and you can slice and dice that and work out how you got the yield that you got. Did I have stress at this time? Well, this is what I'm going to expect tipping back, or something like that. So you can kind of read the soil moisture graph and then kind of look back at the season and say, yeah, like maybe we ran out of water at the end, so the test weight might have been low. And the farmer was saying, yeah, I didn't know that. It was like, see, we got this bit right, this bit wrong. Or did it tip back? Yeah, because we ran out of water at that time. And see, all the other records that we've got, like when you irrigated, how much you put on, if you can automate that, even better.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to worry about writing stuff down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, if whatever monitor you got in that cab, just make sure you're using it to the fullest. Make sure if there's things you don't know about it, you just want to make sure that you're tracking every little piece that you can, especially as the season goes on. whether it's an application with a spray rig or whatever it is, if you collect that data with things like John Deere Ops Center and these other programs, you can feed that information in there, and it'll actually let you kind of pull things out and see what happened there. Why did we have a big yield decrease right there? Why we got a big hickey in the middle of the field? Sometimes you can go back and it was a spray job. Maybe, didn't clean out the tank good enough right when you pulled in the field, and little things like that kind of help you know that we got to do a better job.
Or you might have a little bit of fertilizer left over, so you take another pass, mark it. So you can come back to it and look at it on the yield map.
Yeah.
Or if you miss something and it's so easy to do a little test strip. Double rate, half rate, no rate, whatever it is, just so you can experiment all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point, David. Do any of you guys run two planters, or do y'all know operations that run two planters same time, side by side, whenever they're in the field? So that's kind of what we've been doing for a while now, and this is one of my favorite maps, really, because if you got two planters, that means you got two guys driving two tractors, which means every time you switch fields, what do you have to do on both of those tractors? If you're going from one of your poorer grounds to one of your better grounds with better water, you're going to want to up your seed rate a little bit. Well, if you got two tractors, both those guys got to get that seed rate correct. So they're changing their monitors, or putting in their seed, putting in their fertility. Sometimes one of your guys gets the wrong number put in, and he put a little more seed on, but he must have figured it out because he only made a few passes. So that's what the orange is. The orange right there is showing one guy had 28,000 seeds punched into his monitor, and the guy in yellow was 30,000. So 2,000 difference. Now, Harold doesn't like it when they do that, when the two guys get it wrong, but at the end of the year, you got a free test to go see how did that field do. So that's the favorite part of my map analysis days. But just a couple more things, guys. So we one of the farms that we have is right across the street from the YMCA in Dumas. Have you guys seen those fields? So we don't have a single well on that property. All of our water comes from the city of Dumas, and it's affluent water. So do you guys know what that is? Okay. No description needed. But anyways, it's a neat farm. But in order for us to farm that and use the affluent water from the city of Dumas, we had to, TCEQ made us actually come up with a plan, because they don't want that water rushing down the street in an accident, right? If your sprinkler gets stuck in the middle of the night, gearbox goes out, and you don't know it, how long is that sprinkler going to run? And we got water going down Main Street or Maddox. So what they made us do was come up with a plan that wouldn't happen. And we hired a guy who, real sharp guy named Brad Williams, that came along and really came up with little computers called PLCs. Do y'all know what PLCs are? Little bitty computer. Doesn't run Windows, doesn't run Macintosh. It just does a few things that you need it to do. So around that farm, what we did for TCEQ to let us use that water is we made sure that water would never run for an extended period of time. If the sprinkler goes down and it's in the middle of the night and we don't hear that alarm, these computers actually are set, and we got many of them around that farm, so that if an hour goes by and you don't show up and say, hey, I'm here, you're starting to turn stuff off, turn the water off, or whatever you're doing, these things will kick in and they'll start shutting valves. And really they'll start ramping pumps down. So we'll start slowing pumps down, slowing down the water if nobody responds, and the water's shut off. So it's really through this kind of automation. These things are, I mean, for what they do, we haven't had a single one of these go out in probably 10 years, I'd say. But they're just tough little things. So that's what a PLC is. And so yeah, we got automated valves there. That's kind of one of the technologies that we utilize. And really, it's kind of from that particular farm that this guy came along and designed for us that you get ideas for the rest of your farm, you know. Well, man, shoot, if you can do that here, where else can we do that? And so you just kind of take that knowledge and move forward with it.
So how many of you use PLCs?
Any PLCs on y'all's farms? It's kind of a, well,
But I mean, if you've got,
there's a place for them in an elevator, in a grain dryer.
but if you've got pivot track, does that not, I mean, this pivot track alerts you, this actually shuts it down, is that the difference?
So it's a few things that we do beyond just like not getting an alert. Really, we had to prove to the state that this system will not ever just, you know, for any reason, push more water than it needs to. So if there's a problem and a sprinkler's in a standstill, again, a lot of it's just timed. After a certain amount of time, if you haven't taken a decision and gone out there, the state wanted to know that if everyone slept through an alarm, worst case scenario, they want to know that this system's going to shut down on its own. So, well, and last but not least, but any of you guys do any 3D printing? I got 3D print. I'll pass these around. So we're not experts in this at all, but you know, as far as just what's out there and what you can get to use on your farm, guys, with the internet and with AI and ChatGPT, you can buy a 3D printer, you can learn it in short order. If there are certain parts and pieces around your farm that you can no longer buy, or you don't want to fab up yourself, there's little things you can start to print. And so this is just an example I brought by. My brother-in-law actually, for his operation, this little cap, it's got 2 holes on it, it's got big threads on bottom, and then it's tapped on the side. It's a part that one of his vendors stopped making. And the vendor made it for 20 years. And then just said, we're not gonna carry it anymore. So he called me up about a month ago and said, there's not a whole lot to this. Do you think you could print it? And you know, you get on ChatGPT, you get on AI, and you ask it a few questions, and it builds most of it for you. You still got to take the part, you know, do some adjustments in your 3D software, but if you don't know how to do it, YouTube will show you how to do it. The chat will teach you how to do it. But within an hour and a half, I was already printing some spare pieces. I'll pass those around. Y'all can take a look at them. Here's the. I'll let y'all hold the. Now the main one's obviously metal, a lot better quality.
We did a lot better than plastic.
Are you using chat, what?
ChatGPT.
Six.
I know y'all been here for how many? 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
4.
How many of y'all are using AI? Some form.
Yes.
Every day.
Some form. ChatGPT? All right. Is it kind of replaced Google for you?
100%.
Google less, chat more? Do any of y'all do like,
I compare answers sometimes and do a little bit different.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd say this, if you haven't done it, if you haven't used ChatGPT, run out here when this class is over and go download the app. Whatever you've been struggling with on your farm that you don't know how to implement it, or you don't know the best way to do it, ask it, get ideas. But that's kind of broad thinking kind of stuff. But when it comes down to you got a piece or a part you need to fix on your farm, don't be afraid to get in there and just start getting ideas. It'll give you pictures, it'll give you dimensions, it'll talk through it. And so it's a huge tool. That was last on my list to talk about, but really, you know, if you're not using it, you got to start trying it out. And it's free for so much use per day. So it's really just something everybody's got to try out. Are you doing it, Steve?
No,
Are you doing Chat GPT?
No. Unfortunately, this is the first I've heard it.
Okay.
That shows you how far behind I am. I retired the first time, so, and they're on. I have to drop.
Anyways, I'm gonna shush you guys and ask Danny a couple questions.
So, I'm just the opposite. I'm anti-technology. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean I'm anti-information or anti-data. I just go about it at a different. I'm 75 years old. I've been farming for over 50 years. And I guess I'm a little bit stubborn. I'm a full-blooded German. So some of this stuff but I will tell you, I am not anti-information. So what that means is I still run my own combine. I've got a late model combine that's got real accurate scales on the combine. I calibrate it, so we don't even use a weigh wagon anymore. But when we go back and check the yield, I want that yield monitor within about 1.5% of what, and it's able to do that. We do test plots with probably 10, 12 varieties, some old standby varieties, some new varieties. Another thing I like to do is we've got a 24-row planter and a 12-row corn head. So if we're looking at something that looks promising, we'll do a side by side, but we won't do a strip. We'll do the whole dang field, you know. And my planter guy keeps real good accurate on the varieties. And then I get on the combine and I see pass after pass after pass. How is this variety, not just a strip, we do the strips to test the varieties, but then we'll go back and we'll put them in the field and we'll go around the whole circle, pass, 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 pass. And if I can't see 3 or 4 or 5 bushel difference, pass after pass after pass on the combine, then I'm not interested. I'm not interested in getting it down to the, Dustin, you're interested in getting it down to the
decimal.
To the decimal. I'm 5, 10. If I see 10 bushel, say okay, that's a winner. We're gonna do that one again. As far as our irrigation stuff, years ago, most of our fields have 1 well or 2 circles, half section or whatever. And so we did a circle of corn, a circle of wheat, and swapped them back and forth. Several years ago, wheat got to where it wasn't making sense for us. It may for some people. We don't graze, so we're 100% corn. So what we had to do was figure out varieties that when we first started, we were using 5 and 6 gallons a minute. Now we're down to 3, and probably our heaviest field is 4. And on our 3 and 4, or less than 4, we'll plant one part of the field early, like the first part of May, and then we'll wait 30 days and plant the other part of the field. And then we want a program developed by Pat Scarth called Aquaplanner. So it's a model, and we'll look at the soil moisture at the beginning. We know how much water we've got available, and then this model will tell us a date out in the future. This is your critical growing point. And what that critical growing point is when you can no longer provide enough irrigation to keep up. So with that, what's the value of that? Well, do you pre-water? How much? Do you not pre-water? How much? I've been a disciple of Leon New for years, and he did not promote pre-watering. But with this model, we know out in the future we have to have our profile full by that point. Whether you've put it pre-watering and days like today, you're not getting very much of your water down on the ground. So we don't subscribe to that. We'll try it, but most of the time, using this model, we can predict out there that, okay, we know how much we're putting on, we gotta have this profile full by this point. Then our early planted, his model will, for example, early in the season, it might say the early planted, we're putting on 1.25 inches. And on the late planted, we're only putting 75 or 80 hundredths on maybe. And then a point during the season, we'll go back to equal. And then later on in the season, the early planted will get less water, and the later planted will get more water. And what this has done for us is being able to, we took weed out of the program, so we've got, say we had 6 gallons a minute for 2 circles, we've got 3 gallons a minute. I mean, 6 gallons for 1 circle, and the other circle was in weed. So in the summer, we were just running 1 circle, now we're running 2. So that's helped us stretch our water out. And you know, a normal year, what is a normal year? Well, a normal year is supposed to be 10 inches during the season. So if we start out with that full profile and we manage our water, then if we get even close to our normal rainfall, at that critical point when we're needing to put a lot of water on the early planted and more water on the later planted, if we can catch 1 inch of rain or 1.5 inches of rain, what the model will tell us is, don't shut off, speed it up, and get back over to the other side and speed it up and start getting caught back up. We quit the soil probes because with how we're stretching our water and how we're utilizing our water, there's virtually no way we can overwater. Now, David may argue with me, and I've been a disciple of David's from the very beginning on the soil probes too, but we've switched how we're doing things. And so what we want to know is, we want to know when we need that full profile, we want to know that it's full, and then the other thing is, we want to know when we can shut off. The model will predict for us, and sometimes my irrigation guy will say, no, I think we need to put another circle on. Sometimes we do, sometimes we say, no, the model says we can get by. So the other thing is you ask yourself, well, how do we know how late we can plant? So I've had Pat Scarth, who runs the model, I've had him take just an average year. It's got the temperatures, the rainfall, it's got all the data in there. And I said, I want to be black layered by our normal first frost date, which is going to be somewhere around the 10th or 15th of October. So I want to be black layered by then. I don't want to hurt my yield. What day do I need to plant by for, say, 113 day, 110 day, whatever day hybrid we're using? And the hybrids that we like, it normally comes out to around the 15th of June. So what that does is, some years the early planted will be, last year the early planted was better. Some years the late planted. Just depends on what kind of season you have. And then constantly during the season, he's rerunning the model and adjusting the model based on what kind of actual weather we're getting. So low technology, this is not high technology, but it's high information. That's what I said at the beginning. I want a lot of information, but I'm anti-technology. Not anti, I'm just too old to learn a lot of this stuff. But it's working good for us, and some years, 2 years ago, we had a really tough summer. Didn't matter what we did, the early planted or the late planted, every circle, the north side of the circle, watching the yield monitor and everything, the north side of the circle was 15 to 20 bushel, sometimes 30 bushel better than the south side. Didn't matter what we did, but we still had a decent average yield. Now, we don't shoot for 250 bushels. We used to, but if we can grow 200, 220, and have our water spread out, that's gonna make us more net dollars than trying to put a wheat crop out there. And if we're gonna go for wheat, we're gonna need to go for at least 100 bushel. If we're gonna put the inputs out there to do 100 bushel wheat, we just will grow 200 bushel corn. So I don't know if that works for everybody, but that's what we're doing. But we like the information that we're getting from Pat on the model, and as the rainfall comes during the season, the model adjusts. And there'll be a few times, very rare, but there'll be a few times that we'll get like, say, a 2.5 inch rain event. We say, okay, shut off for a couple of days, but start up, but keep the sprinkler going, so you're not overwatering and losing water out of the field. But we're getting everything back to a full profile and getting caught up for the rest of the season.
Danny, how you doing? You know, you're talking about filling the profile. How you gauging that initial soil moisture reading?
Pat is old school too.
Pro?
Maybe that's why I like him, but he uses a hand probe. And Leon told me early on, there's nothing wrong with a hand probe. There's nothing wrong with a shovel and your hand, if you can ribbon it, if you know what you're doing. That information is low tech, but it's good solid information. But you got to know how to use those tools. And when Pat retires, which he will one of these days, then I don't know what we're going to do. I may retire too then. And I know every sprinkler company is working on data to actually take over the sprinkler and manage the sprinkler. But to be honest, in our environment, we have a tough environment out there in our environment, and going down toward 3 gallon a minute per acre, we got to have two things. We got to have a full profile, and we don't shut the sprinkler off. There's no room in the middle for management. The management comes on the front end, and then the management comes on the back end, knowing that we have the confidence that we can shut off and not and maybe save a watering or two that we did on the back end. And that's what our program here at the Water District, our 212, our 345, all of our programs were geared on. If we can just save 2 to 4 inches of water per season, that's our goal.
There can be a lot of merit. We've been through that. So Danny, what's the approximate cost of Pat's system? That's one thing I wanted to point out is
I'm ashamed to say it, where we're not doing 2 circles and managing both of them, it's $1.50 an acre. Now, if he's running 2 programs on one field, where we're telling this one that early on we want more water, and this one we want more water later on, it's about $3 to run that. And he asked me, he said, I've never done that before, my program can do it. And I said, whatever you charge, it's worth it. So it's low technology, but it's high information.
okay, so now it gives you another range when we get back to the irrigation scheduling. So there, when you talked about using somebody like Pat with his model on that, which Pat is a really intelligent person. Maybe not the best communicator in the world, but he's
Very poor
intelligent.
communicator, and his weekly report that he sends, it took me forever. He's got so much data on there, and it's so convoluted. It took me forever to figure out what everything meant. But I've been using it long enough, and we're comfortable with it. And main thing is, he adjusts the model on as we go. He comes back and checks. Sometimes he'll say, "What's going on out there?" The model says we're supposed to be drier than it is. We're wetter than what's happening. He's also got control of. We use FieldNet, and he's got control of that, not to change the sprinkler or anything, but to see where the passes are and how much has been put on per pass. So he loads his model with that information. It's a little bit higher technology, but he's got to have that information to make the model. Junk in on a model, junk out.
It's, again, just a different approach to doing irrigation scheduling than we've talked about before. And keep that in mind. And hopefully he's around for a while. Nathan, we were just talking about Chat
GPT.
GPT, and Nathan was educating me out in the hallway earlier today about that. Some of the things you found out about Chat GPT.
Yeah, so internally, I would say we're just a bunch of humble rednecks inside of our company, honestly, and we're not technicians or developers or programmers or anything like that. But we went to FarmCon, it's an annual conference up in Kansas City every year, about 2 months ago, and AI was the talk. And so we kind of came back from that conference and said, you know, there's all these things out here, right? Just like kind of what I showed with your watch, right? There's all these platforms that give you all this information, collect all this data, etc. How do we turn this into something useful? How do we start building something meaningful for the farmer? So in a matter of a couple of weeks, we basically started talking about all of the systems we want to connect to ChatGPT. And then we also set up accounts on Claude so we could start coding things and building engines, if you will. So we're now taking irrigation data, weather data, rapid soil and sap analysis data, growing degree unit data, as applied data, yield data, and we're bringing that all into one engine. And we've done that basically in a matter of like 8 weeks. And again, we're not developers, we're not programmers. We're just like, hey, we have to use AI. Personally, I'm a huge ChatGPT user because I drive a lot and so I talk to it a lot. It was kind of embarrassing, like they do this summary thing, like, hey, here's your 2025 year in review, and I didn't even catch that thread, but I had some coworkers, they're like, hey, like, look at the numbers, and I'm like, I pulled it up and it said, you are a top 0.01 user in the world, and I'm like, I think I have an addiction. You know? So it's a really cool platform, and you can go from saying, hey, I'm just a farmer, right, to, wow, I can build some really awesome stuff for my farm in very short order.
Chat GPT. Next thing, you just go home and look it up.
Grok is even more accurate.
No cost.
What is?
Grok?
Ah, Grok.
Yeah, Grok's a good platform as well. Mhm.
That's Elon Musk's version.
While we're on the subject of data centers, there's a lot of discussion about data centers. I've got my water district hat on now, about data centers and the water use and everything. The big one down at Pampa, they're going to build a huge wind farm and solar farm and battery storage on site, and they're going to do all their cooling with refrigeration. So once they bought a section of irrigated land, this is the one I'm most familiar with, but had 3 irrigation wells on it. They're using that water, which they have an allowable. They can use just like I can or you can, the allowable. They're using that during construction. Once construction is through and they get this up and running, they're going to have 3, 1 for each building, 80-gallon-a-minute wells. That's all the water they're going to use. Everything's going to be based on a high electricity load, but they're going to be generating their own electricity. The one in Amarillo, there's a lot of talk about it. Right now, they've made a contract with the city of Amarillo for 2.5 million gallons of water a day. You can do the math on that and see how that fits with circles of corn. But all of those people have to abide by the same rules as you and I do. There's no exemption. Water use is water use, and whether we like it or not, if you don't want them coming here, then don't sell them any land and don't sell them any water rights. I mean, As far as a regulatory, our job is to make sure everybody follows the rules, and 1.5 acre foot at a data center is the same as 1.5 acre foot at a city, or 1.5 acre foot at mine and Harold's farms and your farms. So I just wanted to throw that in. There's a lot of discussion about it. We're monitoring it, but there's two different approaches. One approach is we're going to use a lot of electricity. We're going to do our own. The one in Amarillo is going to have some nuclear reactors. They've told us, the people that are closer to that, including the water district people down there, that it's hard to get any information out of them. So up until what we know for sure is they have a contract with the city of Amarillo to furnish that amount of water.
Here's a stupid question to end this thing with. You know, obviously, when you're farming, you're using 18, 20 acre inches, it's going into the plant and whatever. So where the heck does it go making, this AI center or whatever?
Well, it's for cooling the data center or the reactors that are doing the, but then it's evaporating. I mean, they're reusing it and recycling.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
But
about.
eventually,
I'd like to be able to reuse.